Welcome to Puffs and Poetry, the series where we smoke weed and read poems. I'm your host, Jessica, a writer, cannabis aficionado, and poetry lover. In this series, I hope to share with you poets and poems that I love. Let's get into it. Today, I am smoking a THC and CBD joint, a custom blend type 2, if you will. CBD comes from my friends at Ananda Farms, who had a pick your own plant last year, and it has lasted us until this year. And with my CBD, I have mixed this lovely focus blend from Priestess Herbal Wellness. And then the THC comes from this delicious smelling Blue Dream. For papers, I'm using my favorite Lucy's Natural Remedies, which come with tips, although mine have fallen out of this package. When I roll up, I typically like to include some CBD and some herbs in my THC. It's rare that I will do an all THC joint unless it is like a Friday night or I have absolutely nothing to do after. Mixing in some CBD helps me keep functional and alert and keeps me from getting, too paranoid or anxious or any of the other things that THC can do in high quantities. I am struggling with this tip. All right, it'll be a smush tip. This is my Phoenician grinder, which I absolutely love. It will also be acting as an ashtray during this. So to kick off this series, I could think of no better place to start than with my absolute favorite poet of all time, Mary Oliver. I have her book here, Devotions, which is her selected works out of her entire library of poems from her entire literary career, which spans from 1963 to 2015. Sadly, she passed in 2019, although she probably would have been glad to miss the bullshit of the last couple of years. I find myself returning to Mary Oliver and specifically this book, Devotions, time and time again. She meditates on works that are near and dear to my heart, such as nature, the certainty of death, and the possibility of consciousness, of the other kingdoms in nature. Her poems are mostly short, although some of them are a little bit longer. We will be starting today with her last published work before she died. The book is called Felicity, and it was published in 2015. Now, throughout this series, I will be sharing with you many different poets and poems, but you will also hear a lot of Mary Oliver, simply because I adore her. Should have brought over a poker for this. But you know what I do when I don't have a poker? I use my glasses. So today we have a nice little joint. Because I still need to be functional after this. I'm not trying to get too high, but we can bake, right? This rolling tray and this lighter come from Flyr, a papers brand that I believe is based out of Chicago. All of the products will be linked in the description below. This tip is a little small, but we carry on nonetheless. Our first poem today is the first poem in the book Felicity, titled I Wake Close to Morning. Why do people keep asking to see God's identity papers, when the darkness opening into the morning is more than enough? Certainly any God might turn away in disgust. Think of Sheba approaching the kingdom of Solomon. Do you think she had to ask, is this the place? This poem is titled, The World I Live In. I have refused to live locked in the orderly house of reasons and proofs. The world I live in and believe in is wider than that. And anyway, what's wrong with maybe? You wouldn't believe what once or twice I have seen. I'll just tell you this. Only if there are angels in your head will you ever, possibly, see one. This is a very short and sweet poem, just 2 stanzas. And I love it because it speaks to the importance of accepting the unknown, accepting that we will never know everything, and the joy that you can find in possibility. Our next poem is called Whistling Swans. Do you bow your head when you pray, or do you look up into that blue space? Take your choice. Prayers fly from all directions. And don't worry about what language you use. God, no doubt, understands them all. Even when the swans are flying north and making such a ruckus of noise, God is surely listening and understanding. Rumi said, there is no proof of the soul. But isn't the return of spring and how it springs up in our hearts a pretty good hint? Yes, I know God's silence never breaks, but is that really a problem? There are thousands of voices after all. And furthermore, don't you imagine, I just suggested, that the swans know about as much as we do about the whole business? So listen to them and watch them, singing as they fly. Take from it what you can. Oh, always a risk when you're reading or talking too much with a joint that it goes out. I like a couple things about this poem in particular. One, you can see that I have a line highlighted here. And the line is, yes, I know God's silence never breaks, but is that really a problem? Meditation is often referred to as creating a silence or a stillness. And Mary Oliver herself describes stillness as a silence in which another voice may speak. It's a reoccurring theme that you hear throughout spiritual poetry, God's silence and creating silence for God to speak. She also references a poet named Rumi in this poem. We will get to some of his works later. Mary Oliver has, throughout her body of work, a clear influence by a wide variety of other poets, and she references many of them, which I think is fun. All right, this poem is called The Pond. August of another summer, and once again I am drinking the sun, and the lilies again are spread across the water. I know now what they want is to touch each other. I have not been here for many years, during which time I kept living my life. Like the heron who can only croak, who wishes he could sing, I wish I could sing. A little thanks from every throat would be appropriate. This is how it is and how it has been. All my life I have been able to feel happiness, except whatever was not happiness, which I also remember. Each of us wears a shadow. But just now it is summer again, and I am watching the lilies bow to each other, then slide on the wind and the tug of desire close, close to one another. Soon now I'll turn and start for home. And who knows, maybe I'll be singing. All right, our final poem today is the final poem in this book. And this poem is worth making note of for me for several reasons. Thematically, the beginning and the ending poem can signify a lot about a book of poetry. And this was the last book of poetry that Mary Oliver published before she passed. Did you see me try to ash on the rolling tray? I did a little bit. So this poem is called The Gift, and it is the last poem in this book. And I'll read it to you first and then talk about why I think it's beautiful. Be still, my soul, and steadfast. Earth and heaven both are still watching, though time is draining from the clock, and your walk that was confident and quick has become slow. So, be slow if you must, but let the heart still play its true part. Love still as you once loved, deeply and without patience. Let God and the world know you are grateful, that the gift has been given. Mary Oliver refers to gratitude and the gift of life a lot throughout her work, so I think this is a particularly beautiful piece for her to end with, given that this was the last book of poetry that she ever published. Thank you so much for joining me on the first Puffs in Poetry. I hope that I will continue to see you throughout this series and that you will roll a joint, pack a bowl, or take a dab with me and spend some time reading some poetry. I want to sign off as my favorite YouTuber, Adrienne Mishler, signs off. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and have a good day.